Hello and welcome to the Guardian Football Weekly. Scotland lose to Morocco in Boston. The Tartan Army have taken over the city, but Ismail Saibari scored an absolute beauty to momentarily keep them quiet. The Scots rallied and pushed the Moroccans back. You felt like they'd get one chance, but it never quite came. They are still alive, a point against Brazil. Let's hope they don't adopt the Haitian high line. A good day for Matthias Cunha. And then on to Group D, another excellent performance from the USMNT. The first time they've won their opening two games at a World Cup in almost a century. They stormed out of the blocks and Australia couldn't cope. The Aussies improved in the second half but barely created anything. There's the mystery England international we ended up playing football with on a random LA park. Your questions, and that's today's Guardian Football Weekly. On the panel today, with me in the studio, Barry Glendenning.
Hello, Max.
Hello, Barry. In Dallas, Lars Sivertsen. Hey, Lars.
Howdy.
And in Toronto, Seb Hutchinson. All right, Seb?
How are you?
Yeah, very good. Did get some criticism that everyone is saying howdy when it's yo is what we were told to say, Lars, but I'm happy with howdy.
I started the howdy thing. There's no, if anyone else is picking that up, I'm actually in Dallas. I'm taking no... Anyway.
And I asked a Canadian, what's a good greeting for a Canadian to say just for this show? And they said, how are you?
Oh, that's good. I don't think Lars invented howdy.
In the context of the pod this summer, I think I was first. I'm prepared to be corrected on that.
Let's start in Group C. Brazil are top on 4 points. Morocco 4 points. Scotland 3. Scotland lost 1-0 to Morocco in Boston, and I caught up with Ewan Murray just after full time. Game's just finished, or finished about 10 minutes ago, Ewan. I thought they were so good in that second half, Scotland.
Did you?
Yeah, well, there was a momentum, there was an energy, you tell me, right? They didn't play much, but I felt like it was coming.
No. Yeah, they were definitely better. I mean, they started off, they were obviously shell-shocked as you would be losing a goal after 71 seconds. I thought Morocco were very good in that first half, looked like they were going to score every time they went forward. And that obviously rattled Scotland. I actually thought Scotland finished the first half okay. The stoppage time element of the first half, they got a bit more composure. And then second half, yeah, I just thought they huffed and puffed. And Morocco could and probably should have scored another couple in the counter-attack. So, yeah, they were improved, but I didn't really feel that golden chance was going to come where they were going to score it. And that's a recurring theme. They don't really score enough goals or create enough chances, which is largely due to the players they do or don't have. But that's where we're at.
Can you put your finger on why it took them most of the first half to sort of come to grips with the game?
Yeah, I just think that early goal spooked them, and I understand that. I think when you lose a goal in those circumstances, the system they played surprised us. Playing Tierney in front of Robertson was a surprise, obviously, to try and limit Hakimi's threat down the Moroccan right. So that was different, and it was a surprise, and they just didn't get a chance to get to grips with that or to get a grip of the game because Morocco scored so early. So I do understand why that happens.
I guess, can they take confidence from the fact that, Morocco got deeper and deeper, like Scotland did. Push and push. Yeah. I agree with you. They never had the moment, but I don't know. I just felt the moment was coming. Can they take that into a game against Brazil?
Yeah. Well, what they can take into it is this is still in their hands. They didn't lose this game heavily. The goal difference scenario now is not overly troublesome yet. And obviously there's a lot of games to play and a lot of things to happen. But if they avoid a heavy defeat, you would think they should be okay to go through on 3 points. So. The pluses are they didn't fold, they didn't collapse, especially in that second half, as you said, and this is still on for them. They didn't lose 3 or 4-0, and all of a sudden they're in a really precarious position. So those are things that they will cling to. There's no doubt about that. And I actually think Morocco, who are very very highly rated and have some very good players, they'll be a bit frustrated. I think they never really killed this game off at all, did they?
No, I agree. I have to talk about the atmosphere. I mean, Flower of Scotland sounded amazing, from the TV. How was it for you?
Not fantastic, yeah. It's been, listen, the Scotland fans will be sad to leave Boston. I think Boston will be sad when the Scotland fans leave. It's been the perfect city, the perfect destination. The Tartan Army have made friends and influenced people all over. And I think sometimes you can go over the top of the Scotland fans, but I don't think we can in terms of this scene and how it's been in Boston. It's been absolutely fantastic. And yeah, Flower of Scotland, I think maybe because it was a bit earlier in the day that had some impact as well. It wasn't the 9 p.m. kickoff. Maybe people were a bit more lively. It's hair in the back of the neck type stuff. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, sober and in tune. What was your pick of, Fenway Park? Fenway Park was amazing, wasn't it? I don't know if there are any other moments from the Boston takeover that really moved you.
I went to see Delamitri in concert last night. That was good fun. Just packed with Scotland fans.
Brilliant.
No, just the whole. It's a great. I don't know how well you know Boston. It's a great city anyway. It's a fantastic place, and it's so walkable and tight. It's quite a European style city. So you had this thing with those Scotland fans absolutely everywhere, every corner you turned, and that's quite a sight. And they are good natured. There's no problem. They enjoy themselves, and they do it in the right way. So it's just been, it's been a good time to be Scottish in a very good city.
Well, look, we go again against Brazil. Thanks for coming on, pal.
Right, Max. Talk to you soon.
Ewan Murray there. And I don't know, Baz. I thought Scotland were better in the second half than Ewan gave the impression that they were. But, I mean, he's right. They huffed and puffed and never quite created that moment.
Well, they were better in the second half than they were in the first, but that's not saying much because they were absolutely dreadful in the first. Completely rattled by that early brilliant goal by Sabari. And I think they were so lucky to go in at half-time only 1-0 down, because with better finishing, Morocco could have been 3, maybe 4 goals up. So it was up to Scotland to take advantage of that good fortune, and they did to an extent. They were certainly improved, but they didn't really have any clear-cut chances. I don't think you and Ewan spoke about the penalty shouts, and look, they're both in the seen them given territory. I think both would have been soft, and I think Scotland would have been outraged if similar penalties had been awarded against them. Steve Clarke seemed quite philosophical about it after the game. He wasn't particularly angry or anything. I agreed with him. I thought the McGinn one was worse than the McTominay one, but yeah, they're both 50-50s in my opinion. While their performance improved in the second half, they didn't really start going for it until about 65 minutes, and by that stage most of their players were tired. Moroccans had sort of shut up shop a bit, so it's not a terrible result for Scotland. It could have been if they'd shipped 3 or 4 goals, and they're still alive, and that's all right, I suppose.
We did have loads of questions, actually, Lars, on those penalties. Kush saying, I thought the officiating was meant to be better this tournament. Scotland robbed of a penalty. Tom, an England fan, is that potentially the worst refereeing performance in any game of football ever? Wars said, how many penalties should Scotland have had? And I'm sort of with Barry here. Like, in the moment, the McGinn one, I thought that looked penalty-ish to me, but I'm not totally sure.
Yeah, I think the McGinn one they're unlucky on. I've also kind of come down on I kind of think that's a penalty. But also it's extremely hard to take comments like, is this the worst refereeing performance ever type stuff seriously. Because you hear that after every time someone doesn't get a decision they want. It's kind of a little bit nonsensical. But I will definitely put it down to unfortunate, the McGinn one. Is it one of those that doesn't quite meet the threshold for VAR interference? It exists in that sort of weird grey zone that if it gets given, VAR definitely doesn't overturn it. But maybe it was deemed to be not wrong enough to interfere. Gotta be honest, I'm edging towards thinking it probably was wrong enough that the men in the booth should have gotten involved. It looked an awful lot like a penalty to me.
Seb?
Yeah, I'm with you and Barry on this. I think Max. When I saw both incidents, I think I always go in real time and think, does it make me go, oh, come on, if I'm not supporting one of the teams, right? And when I saw the McGinn one in particular, I just thought, if the referee's not giving that on the field, it's not going to be overturned. When you see the replay, he does get nudged to the ground, but it just doesn't convince you, and you want to be convinced if you're going to overturn things. That's what I believe anyway, and I think the VAR setup, that's what they believe both in this tournament and obviously in the Premier League and UEFA. They're all on this line now trying to keep this bar high. So you just have to get the referee's attention during the game, and I think you need more than that. But as you say, on another day, they might have got it and it would have stayed. But the worst decision refereeing performance ever line is just so tiresome every time you hear it, because you know it's just drowning in bias, obviously. So that's just the way these things go, isn't it?
I mean, I guess, Lars, the thing that Scotland can be enthused about is that performance was, the second half was better than the Haiti one.
Yes, I suppose it is better being second best to a very, very good Moroccan team than it is to sort of labour against Haiti. It is an upgrade. And you're not I don't completely disagree with you, Max, in that they were building some kind of momentum towards the end. I just think Morocco looked like a really good team, technically sharp across the board. Now, you always had the sense that they had extra gears that they could go to if they wanted to. While there was still just one game in it, a penalty can happen. The stuff there. But in the end of the day, Scotland just didn't create a lot, even though they got better. Next up, I guess, is Brazil in Miami. Is it? That'll be fun and moist and humid. Tremendous for all the family. Brazil, who now kind of need the points because they did drop points against Morocco. That's not ideal either. But you still have a game. You still got to believe, I guess, even though I just feel it's been quite disappointing on the field. Scotland have been almost as disappointing on the pitch as the fans have been good off it. I think that's not entirely unfair.
Yeah, and Barry, you've mentioned just the scenes we've seen from all over Boston have been so great.
I'm loving it, watching the clips on Instagram of Scotsmen and women in Fenway Park. That I would love to have been at that game. Scotsmen and women on a boat in Boston Harbour, I guess. And it was called Freedom, the boat.
Great.
And just them in various bars, them marching through a park, them marching to Fenway Park. They have been having a lovely time. The people of Boston love them and don't want them to leave. But they are leaving now because they're off to Miami, and the people of Boston can now look forward to welcoming England fans next week. So that's something for them to relish.
How dare you, Barry? I think I wanted Scotland to score so much in the last minute because the noise would have been absolutely... Just this slow build. There was that moment where I thought Lyndon Dykes had volleyed one in the top corner, but actually a defender had kicked it out for a corner. Anyway, Seb, we should mention... we should mention the Saibari goal because he almost got a ball stuck in a stanchion in a goal that doesn't have a stanchion. It was that good.
It was a lesson in when you have a player with so much confidence in their finishing. He seems to be a player right in his moment. He had no doubt. All he had to do was connect with that ball, and there was no chance for Angus Gunn. And I think in many ways that sums up the situation Scotland are in. I mean, Angus Gunn barely played last season. It's a really tricky for you to then come into a tournament and feel like that you're up to the pace in that way. And Morocco, actually, I looked at the game slightly differently when I thought Morocco probably would be slightly disappointed because they started so well and they seemed to be in a flow and they seemed to be really dangerous. And I just wonder in the second half that there were some doubts in them. I know their centre-half pairing really hasn't had much football either and it's probably the weaker area of their team. But they have such a high technical level and a high belief. And I just wanted to see a bit more from them actually during the game, because Scotland were fortunate not to be a few goals behind in the first half an hour. But after that, they pushed and pushed, and I don't think they ever felt like they were going to threaten Morocco's defence, which probably makes them come out of this thinking, maybe we could have won by more, maybe we could have got more out of it. And I worry for Scotland in the sense that because they only beat Haiti 1-0, we say one win might be enough. It really might not be, because they could end up with a minus goal difference if they lose to Brazil. In fact, they will. So that's the tricky situation they're in. But it wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be Scotland if it was easy, would it?
Good simple maths there from you, Seb, as well. Yes, Lars?
There is a little thing that's maybe worth observing with Morocco in that they've played 2 games now, and actually we can include the pre-tournament friendly against Norway. The pattern was a little bit the same. They were all over us in the first half and really were quite a lot better than us, but faded in the second half. I know that was a friendly, subs were made, etc. But same thing against Brazil. They were really good in the first half and had more chances, could have scored more goals. Brazil grew into took over in the second half. Okay, they're Brazil. They're very good. That'll happen. But as much as I kind of think Morocco probably had gears they could have gone to if they needed to, it is true that Scotland managed to build some momentum. And I wonder if that's in some way related to the fact that they're now pressing more than they used to do under the previous coach, Walid Regragui, I guess. I'm butchering that name. I apologize. But the guy who was in charge before up until the AFCON, who took them to the semis in Qatar. They were quite conservative, quite cagey under the new coach who used to be in charge of the sort of underage international team. They are now much more proactive and pressing. And I have a deep suspicion of teams who try to press high for too long in this tournament, because I think people are just going to run out of gas if you're trying to go deep into the tournament playing that way.
Off the pitch, Achraf Hakimi, he did play. The news today is that French prosecutors have confirmed he will stand trial for rape. A woman accused him of raping her at his home in Paris in 2023. Hakimi wrote on social media on Friday, "The justice system looked me in the eye and said, if you weren't famous, there would never have been a case. I chose to remain silent for years. I believed that maintaining my dignity, being patient and trusting in the justice system would allow the right decisions to be made. Today, a story that isn't mine is being told at the expense of my family, my life, and above all, the truth. I sometimes feel like I've become an easy target. I've been waiting for this trial since day one, and now I'm eagerly awaiting it. Finally, I will be able to speak." Rachel Flor Pardo, the plaintiff's lawyer, said in a statement, "After more than 3 years of legal proceedings, and after my client was, in her view, defamed and dragged through the mud by Achraf Hakimi's defence, this decision brings her relief and hope. Relief that she's been heard by the justice system and will have the right to a trial. Hope that this trial will help other women and further weaken the wall of denial and impunity surrounding sexual violence, including in the world of men's football." A date hasn't been set for the trial, and that'll do for part one. We'll do Brazil's win over Haiti in part two. Welcome to part two of the Guardian Football Weekly. So also in Scotland's group, Brazil 3, Haiti 0 in Philadelphia. And look, Haiti hung on for 20-odd minutes, Barry. I started to think, you never know. Like they keep the ball well, they move the ball well, they attack well. But in the end, it was all quite straightforward for Brazil.
It was straightforward by Brazil, but I still wasn't that impressed with them, I have to say. And I think even after they'd gone a goal up, I just made a note that their midfield, Casemiro, Bruno Guimaraes and Lucas Paquetá, would get eaten alive by the midfield of a better team. I was even thinking, Scotland's midfield are possibly better than this lot. But then Guimaraes and Paquetá went on to set up a couple of nice goals. And they did visibly improve after they'd scored their opener. But while it was a very, very comfortable win for Brazil, and Haiti are now officially out, they can't progress, I wasn't hugely impressed with them. I think Haiti, the high line you alluded to in your intro, was their undoing, and Brazil were pinging balls over the top, and Vinny Jr. was making hay Rafinha until he went off with apparently a hammy, which presumably will rule him out of the tournament, rest of the tournament, unless he's very lucky. And my concern for Scotland would be that their defence is a bit sketchy as well, and Brazil could do similar damage again. I'll be interested to see how Steve Clarke sets up against Brazil. I presume he will, being a natural pragmatist, try and play for a draw.
Yeah, I mean, tricky because Brazil need to win because they know Morocco play Haiti and Haiti are out. So it should be pretty straightforward for Morocco. You think, where do you stand on Brazil then, Lars? Not as good as, well, I don't know how good you thought they were. So, it is an open question.
I stand with Barry. And I also kind of thought watching this game that Haiti are kind of unfortunate to have gotten both sort of Brazil, Morocco, and kind of also Scotland in their group, because out of the minnows, I think they look decent. I really think if they'd have gotten there's a few other groups in this tournament that if they were the fourth team in there, I think they could have actually done something in this tournament. They're really not that bad at all. And the fascinating thing is to see what Ancelotti does here, because I don't think it is really working that well. I think Cunha was busy. I mean, that was the big change, starting Cunha. He scored one really good one and one very scruffy one. And I did actually want to raise this with the panel. Celebration police, not the most popular police in the world. But I do think Cunha doing the full surfer celebration after scoring a goal that was basically the defender booting the ball at him and it going flying in. Is that on? Are we having that? I think there should be a panel for celebration, justification, arbitration, or something catchy that should look at this, because and maybe like if they're found to have been spurious celebrations or excessive celebrations, the player should be made to wear a silly hat or something for the next game. There should be something, because I'm not sure I'm having that.
If I can throw my hat in with Superintendent Sivertsen of the celebration, please, I would also like to protest against the involvement of substitutes running onto the pitch to celebrate.
Okay.
Down with this sort of thing.
And what time of the tournament is that acceptable, Barry, do you think? Last minute of a knockout game?
Yeah, okay, but only if they're down in one corner.
If I could add to Chief Superintendent Sivertsen's idea, could the silly hat be the silly hat that the woman from Selling Sunset was wearing when we saw her filming, which meant our swimming pool was closed? Because I'd quite like to see Matthias Cunha in that sort of see-through black hat that she was wearing.
What was it like? I didn't see the hat, and she wasn't wearing a hat when I met her in the elevator.
Well, of course.
Was it like a grieving widow?
It was
hat?
grieving widow, but sort of lattice and sort of quite. It sort of undulated like a fairway, and it was really quite large.
Okay.
But I did go. I went to ask the production team what was happening, and they looked at me like I was a piece of muck. Those guys. Seb, just that question on Brazil, which I think is interesting, which is trying to gauge how good Brazil are. We have two members of the panel saying not that good.
No. I think I said it the last time I was on the pod that it's just even on paper and then watching, it was one of the worst Brazil sides I've ever seen. But yet this was the oldest Brazil side that they've named at a tournament, I think, since '62. And that says to me that it's interesting on a few levels, because they also then brought on two very young players in Ryan and Hendrik. There just doesn't seem to be, if somebody's trying to name a Brazil side, they really struggle to do it. And I know they've always had this case because they've got such a large pool, but it's often the pool is large with a lot of quality. Whereas we're now in a situation where we're looking at a Brazil squad and thinking, I'm not scared of them as an opposition. And even in the second half, they didn't have an effort on target. I know they had another goal disallowed, but the stats will say they didn't have an effort on target. Can they maintain a high performance against the best teams in this tournament? It did get me thinking, if the US, the way they're playing, had played Brazil in this tournament so far, would they have blown them away? I never thought I'd say this, but it feels that way. I feel that they're really not at it. And it would take one very good side to knock them out, and a side that really believes they can. I just can't see them going very deep in this tournament.
While we're down with that sort of thing, down on Alisson for saving that header that would have given Haiti their first goal of this tournament. And even though he was offside, Martinelli had a shot that Johnny Placide, my favourite goalkeeper in the whole thing, tipped onto the bar. It was absolutely sensational. Okay, then Group D then. USA 2, Australia 0 in Seattle. I caught up with US soccer editor Alex Abnos and Guardian Australia's Jack Snape post-game. They were in the same stadium, but if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see they joined separately because of the huge animosity between these two nations. All right then, Alex, first time US have won the first two games in a World Cup since 1930. I mean, that's pretty huge, isn't it?
It's absolutely gigantic, Max. I mean, this is a team that really had hoped to capture the attention and the hearts and minds of the American public. And I think with these two performances so far, they've given them a lot of reasons to cheer. There's a lot of positivity in this team. There's a lot of good momentum about this team. That's not something you can say about a U.S. World Cup team all that often. I can't recall the vibes really ever being higher for the U.S. at a World Cup than they are right now.
Yeah. How was Poch afterwards?
He was good. You know, it was actually strikingly kind of similar to the way he was after the 4-1 against Paraguay. You know, he's trying to downplay it, I think, as much as he can. I don't think he wants the players to get carried away, even though this result definitely means much more than the first one did. It qualifies the United States for the next round. I don't think there's been a time in the modern history of the World Cup where the U.S. has qualified for the World Cup with a game to spare. He's obviously very happy with the team. He shouted out Alex Freeman, who scored the second goal, and his development in a short period of time. But overall, you know, he's not getting carried away, and nor should he. You know, there are still hopefully many games to come.
Meanwhile, Jack, this was pretty flat from the Socceroos, wasn't it? I mean, I don't know if Popper got the team selection right. That's the big question, I guess, isn't it?
What a letdown, hey? We've been so looking forward to this game, and it felt like in that first half, Australia didn't really even show up. But big question was over those two key selections to play two A-League men players, Nishan Volupale and Matt Leckie, in those key inverted winger roles. He took off, or he started those guys instead of the two guys who scored against Turkey. So it makes it very hard to defend that selection decision. And it felt like he himself realised that maybe he'd made an error when at halftime it's 2-0 and he's making a triple substitution. But look, the Socceroos, they improved a little bit in the second half. They're still in with a shot of progressing out of this group. So there's a lot of anticipation towards that game against Paraguay next week.
Yeah, and Jack, did Popper say anything afterwards about getting it wrong?
He has not admitted any fault, but he's not particularly talkative, Tony Popovic. You won't get anyone in the Australian squad criticising Popovic and his selections. There was just a degree of frustration, right? They don't know really why they didn't turn up, particularly physically in that first half. They were just battered by a brilliant US performance. Fortunately, they've got a lot of optimism that they've got that result in the bank against Turkey, and now they can really focus on this Paraguay game and hopefully take it to the round of 32.
Yeah, and Alex, we know Seattle is like a great place. It's like a hotbed for football in the US. What was the atmosphere like?
It was incredible, and I have to say, it was incredible. Obviously, plenty of support for the U.S. It was loud. There was a military flyover of these helicopters that really sort of like got everybody amped for a game that ended up not really ever springing fully to life. It was never really as competitive as I think a lot of people wanted it to be. But the support throughout was incredible. They were loud. They were chanting. They were cheering. I have to also take my cap off to the Australia fans that did make the trip. They were also very loud and very obvious. It's tough to be the away fans in an environment like that, and I think they showed out pretty well. Granted, it was much easier to tell them apart than it was the Paraguay fans because the colors are very different. They were all wearing yellow, and it was very obvious who was an Australia fan in the crowd. But overall, it was a great environment. I almost wish the game were like a little bit more competitive for most of it. But overall, you can't complain about the amount of crowd noise and the investment in the game that you could see pretty much everywhere.
How have you found that needle, Jack? That sort of weird rivalry that has emerged from between the US and Australia.
I think you're talking about the Seattle Space Needle. I believe that's the skyscraper in the middle of Seattle.
Yeah, it is.
I have not been up the top of the Space Needle, but the rivalry between Australia and the States, you actually saw it in the game in that second half. It did start to get a little bit testy, and that's kind of what we want as Australian fans. We want this team to be putting it all out there, really pushing the boundaries when it comes to the challenges, the physicality, making the referee make tough decisions. And really, it took us probably an hour to get to that point today. And that's one of the biggest disappointments, because that's something really we should be getting right from the first minute.
Yeah, we go again, the Aussies. But thank you, chaps. That's great stuff. Cheers, Alex. Cheers, Jack.
Thank you, Max.
Cheers, Max.
Alex and Jack there. It's a joke. They get on very well. It's okay. Look, you mentioned the US there, Seb, when you were talking about, could they see off Brazil? And there was so much chat before this game about, and the needle was the US saying this will be easy for us, and Australia getting annoyed about it. And it turned out it was just easy for the US.
Yeah. And they're full of confidence. They're brimming with confidence. And it is incredible. A lot of people did not see this coming from them, but it feels like they've all bought into the Pochettino way. And when we've seen that work for him in the past, it's been so effective. And they don't even need, it feels like a tournament at the moment where obviously the team feels bigger than the individual. And that's going to take them a long way. What I would say, of course, is their group feels particularly low on quality compared to some of the other groups. I think we're seeing that already. I mean, as we speak, I don't know if we're allowed to even mention the Turkey-Paraguay game, but they seem to be struggling in that Turkey. I mean, what is going on there? And I would have looked on the surface and thought Turkey would be the toughest opponents for the US, but that may not come to pass. It could be out by the time they play them. So there is then an element to that, and we have seen in previous tournaments before where a side looks fantastic in the group stage and one knockout game kills the dream. The Netherlands in 2008, Brazil in 82, whatever it might be. But because they're at home, because they've got this power behind them, they're full of running, they're playing for each other. They even have this in the attacking areas, you feel that they can rotate quite well because they're all in that groove and they've all bought into what Pochettino wants. And wherever you look around the pitch and you think, is that player good enough? And you see these players in European football and you think of someone like Dest, and he looked absolutely incredible in this game. But it is, I suppose the tingle is the opposition, and that does tick away at you. Are they playing a top side who could probably deal with this pressure that they're applying for a period and then pick them off, get in behind Tim Ream or whatever. So we'll see what happens. But now to ride this wave is great for the tournament, of course it is. And I think we want the US to go deep into the tournament. Maybe from an English point of view, not win it, but go deep and make it feel like a special competition.
We are allowed to mention Turkey, Paraguay. It's not a secret. It's happening while we record. Paraguay are currently 1-0 up. We'll talk about that game tomorrow. I mean, I suppose the point is, Lars, that and Seb alluded to it. There is a big difference in quality between the US side and the Australia side. If you think of McKennie, Adams, Dest, Robinson, they've got loads of players that are just better than anyone in the Australia side.
So for me, the remarkable thing about these two games is how similar they played out, because they were both games against an opponent who we expect wanted to sit in, maybe not full park bus, but actually possibly full park bus. I mean, Paraguay have been very defensive and solid in the qualifying phase and have been successful at that. Australia were very bus parky against Turkey and were very successful at that. But in both of the games, the US got an early goal, an early own goal, as it happened, and that opened things up a bit because suddenly the opponent had to come out and they had space to play. Now, I am US positive. I think they look, I completely agree with the assertion that they look like a Pochettino team with the pressing, with the energy, with the quick little interchanges they set up. But what happened in both games, I thought it looked a lot to me like the players were told at halftime to, try to slow the tempo down a bit. We're not going to press like lunatics for 45 more minutes. We're going to try to keep the ball a little. And that they are not very good at. And the games didn't fully get away from them, but the second halves were not as convincing at all. And you see oftentimes like some slightly weird decisions being made on the ball. I think they seem to be a lot more comfortable when they're going full pelt. They don't seem super comfortable when they're defending out of possession, and they don't seem super good at taking down the tempo in possession. And is that a big problem against Australia and Paraguay? Maybe no, but against stronger opponents, it could be, because I don't think you can play at full press. I mean, I'm going to sound like a broken record. I don't think you can do full press, here we go, every game for the rest of this tournament, because I think you're going to run out of juice. The caveat would be that the games kind of fell into a pattern that really suited them, and they lost a little bit of control in the second half in both games in a way I didn't love. But it is still better than I think most people, including myself, were expecting from the US before the tournament. And at their best, they've been very, very good.
Meanwhile, for Australia, Barry, I mean, already sort of every Australian ex-pro I've seen being interviewed going, why not pick the two guys that scored? And I know football isn't that simple, but in everything that Popovic got right against Turkey and played an attacking lineup, even though they did defend a lot with pace and Iran Kunda playing, he didn't do that here, and it just, the two guys he brought in are two old A-League, veterans, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, I think he made a mistake, and he rectified it, or tried to rectify it at half time, but it was sort of too late by then. I was a bit stunned when I saw they hadn't been selected. If nothing else, it gives the Australian defence, who we know are going to be under pressure, gives them out balls. Their confidence is sky high because they both scored, and I think it was a mistake. Australia were absolutely diabolically bad in the first half of this game. They improved a bit in the second half, but not enough. And I think on 80 minutes, Poch made a few subs, just shut the game down, and that was it. The highlight after that was when the referee, Felix Weir, went down with cramp and had to be attended to by Australia's Aidan O'Neill, who did the pushy thing on his outstretched foot and leg. So I presume, Wayne Rooney thought that was a disgrace. That's man gets cramp at having run around in I don't know how hot it was. I'm going to guess it was pretty hot. for 96 minutes.
Yeah, fair play. He's allowed to get cramp, isn't he? The best thing is the BBC have this feature with graphics from the 80s. And like someone said, it looks like the Dire Straits video. And the ref getting cramp is just, he can't deal, the graphics cannot deal with this ref lying on the ground. It's very, very funny.
I don't think I've ever seen a ref get cramp before, or visibly have to go down and get treatment from one of the players.
Yeah, you sort of think he should be allowed to just sub. Yes, Lars?
We have confirmation from our intrepid reporters on the ground on what kind of juice the referee was handed as he was lying on the ground, struggling with this cramp. I feel like that's the big story today.
To alleviate the symptoms of cramp, it's not prune. Is it prune juice maybe? Or
you want something salty, don't you? Pickle juice, apparently.
Oh,
I'm
pickle
told.
juice. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Prune juice would just make him shit himself.
Yeah, that doesn't need that. Felix didn't need to shit himself after having cramp, did he? Anyway, that'll do for part 2. Part 3, we'll look ahead to tomorrow's games. Welcome to part 3 of the Guardian Football Weekly. Live shows in September, then 1st of September, Vicar Street, Dublin. 9th of September, Soho Theatre, Walthamstow. Come along, please, at guardian.co.uk/Football Weekly Live. Tomorrow we've got the Netherlands, Sweden, Germany, Ivory Coast, Ecuador, Curacao, and Tunisia, Japan. Lars, Netherlands, Sweden is visually beautiful. How do you think the game will be?
I think it could be fun. I thought the Dutch were not mega fun against Japan. They were a little bit sort of conservative and boring and played safe, but they also didn't look super comfortable when Japan were kind of counterattacking on them, and that is what the Swedes will be looking to do. I mean, they'll be looking to try to keep a reasonably solid sort of organization off the ball and try to hit people on the counter with Gyökeres and with Isak, and that fared very well for them against an admittedly appalling Tunisia team. But I think the Swedes cannot be fully discounted. The Dutch were kind of boring against Japan, kind of underwhelmed by what they brought to the party there, but they do have a fair bit of quality. So I think it could be an exciting game. I'm trusting my Scandi brethren.
Germany beat Curacao 7-1, so our first chance to see them against a decent opponent. Seb, you're covering the game against the Ivory Coast for ITV. How do you see it?
Yeah, it's funny, after a team wins 7-1, you think about their vulnerabilities, but I watched that and thought, you can get at this Germany team, particularly the centre-halves. And I think about, Jonathan Tah, and he's somebody who prides himself in the physical challenges and going toe-to-toe with strikers. But for centre-halves to have that attitude, you always think to yourself, well, they just have to make a mistake once and they're in big trouble. And in that Curacao game, there were a few occasions where Curacao got in between the centre-halves and the fullbacks and could stretch Germany. Now, I think this Ivory Coast side, this Côte d'Ivoire side, is built to take advantage of that. They are a team that actually looked defensively very good against Ecuador, and they were defensively good in qualifying. But it's their attacking players. They've got some exciting players, and I'm sure Diamandi's been spoken about, and we know he's set for a big move. Mm-hmm. But in this squad, I wonder if they, again, I feel there's a belief thing going on. We mentioned it about Morocco and how long these sides can maintain a high level across a whole game. I hope that Ivory Coast can do it in this one, because they could really trouble this Germany side. I think in a transitional situation, I think Germany are very vulnerable. Now, on the ball, they can play some pretty stuff, but you just watch them and you think, I'm not entirely sure. And also, Neuer, as we say, he was barely tested against Curacao, but he had a couple of moments of that game where you just thought, well, that's classic Neuer when he's not having a good game. I mean, I remember him picking the ball up and just throwing it, bowling it out straight to a Curacao player who then had a chance to shoot on goal. And I just think Germany, I wasn't convinced, even though they had such a dominant display. So this is what makes this game so intriguing to me, because Ivory Coast certainly have the weapons to harm them.
Whoever comes second in this group will probably face whoever comes second in England's group. So that would be Croatia or Ghana, you'd imagine. So I think coming second in this group wouldn't be the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination, would it?
You're probably right.
I'd take Croatia or Ghana on the evidence of what I've seen so far.
Maybe England should come second. If we had the choice.
Ecuador. Well, will Germany beat Ecuador, though? That's the other thing. I mean, they might not even finish second.
Lars?
So runner-up in Group E is versus runner-up in Group I.
Oh, I thought it was L.
Oh, you thought there are so many groups, the letters are wrong. Anyway.
Is it not R? Is it not Group R?
The I and the L looks very similar. It depends whether it's all caps or not. If you think if it's lower caps, it looks the same. No, I'm very invested in this because there's a pretty high likelihood. Well, it's a likelihood anyway that the runner-up in Group I is going to be Norway. Now that last 32 game will be played here in Dallas. At which point there's a chance I might get in. So if this happens, it'll be my brave Viking boys versus probably Ivory Coast or Ecuador. So I've got a very keen eye on these games.
All right then, let's get on to any other business. Danny says. My wife finding out a main member of the Selling Sunset cast is now back on the show due to Max and Barry doing some Hollywood reporting. Wasn't on my bingo card at this World Cup, but hey ho. Apparently we nearly broke that as an accidental exclusive. We were pipped to the post by, is it? Do I say TMZ or can I say TMZ? What do the kids say? Somebody. They say Z. TMZ. It's not something I follow. Maybe I'm on it all the time. Who knows, Barry? We did play a game of football earlier today. There's been a thing put out on Instagram. We invited Lloyd Griffith. He came along. And we were standing there playing. And then we're just warming up. And Ben Fisher says, oh, Danny Cipriani's here. And I was like, oh, he says there's somebody who looks like Danny Cipriani. And as I got close, I was like, he really looks like Danny Cipriani, to the point where he actually was Danny Cipriani. So it just shows who you get to play with.
Good left foot.
Very good left foot.
Was he any good?
Good touch for a big man.
Danny, disappointing defeat for the lads today.
Yeah, I feel like there was no referees for overtime there. You know, I think that the game ran on a bit long. We showed some quality. The cameraman was actually man of the match back there, and I think we was fantastic in the end, but not quite the W.
Lloyd?
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, I mean, exhausted. I'm 17 and a half stone.
Do you think that counted against you?
It's hard to say it counted for me, but yeah, it was the first time playing in a few months. Great to play. I thought we were quite tight, actually. I thought we played some really good football. It's unbelievable. It's ridiculous, isn't
Have
it?
you ever played sport before?
When I was young,
Right,
like
okay.
real young,
Yeah.
I played a bit of cricket.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I like linking up with you, Lloydie. What are you on about?
Yeah, no,
The new boots are working for you.
I know, I bought new boots yesterday, so I think 14 blisters and counting. But there was just no service for me up top. I felt like Ronaldo. No one really wanted to play with me, and I was just there for eye candy, really. But we did well, I thought.
But you did look good.
Yeah. But it was good. And honestly, it was like playing with your school teacher, a commentator from the 80s, and also your dad. Because you just the whole time just kind of instructing people where to go, and come on, Lloyd, better than that. You know what I mean? Your mum hates you, stuff like that. So I enjoyed it.
Do you want to review my performance or not, Danny?
I thought your heat map, there wasn't much movement.
So it was a lie.
but as a centre back, I think you was wise with that. You just picked up the right spots.
You can't pay for experience.
That's
like
what they would say. I felt like early on, it felt like Ajax early on. You was just pulling strings, getting the ball at your feet, playing out. And as time went on, I guess we can just.
I got older.
You definitely got about 45 minutes older, and it happened.
For the last half hour, you were shouting "Next goal wins."
And how long? Cheers, boys. Thank you, Danny.
There was one point I watched, and I just wanted, I saw you didn't move at all, and but the rest of the game you were great. So it was brilliant.
It was just minutes 10 to 60. Look, we go again back in training tomorrow morning. All right.
It was wicked fun. I thought all the lads were great, man. It was good fun.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, boys.
I meant to say Rory, our video editor, scored a brilliant hat-trick, but come on. It's gone to his head. It's all he's done all day. It's just watch replays of himself pinging one in with his left foot.
I saw him nearly knock your head off with a kick out.
He did also twat the ball into my head from about 4 yards. I span around. They were like,
you looked cartoon.
Yeah,
Buncher
exactly.
jars.
I had to have a lie down. Now, some feedback on Barry's friend. Marco says, this could be the greatest performance by an Irishman on American soil since Ray Houghton, 94. Joel says, I'm on the side of the management company on this one. Imagine in the midst of passion, a rogue Coca-Cola bottle was knocked over without the lid being fastened properly. Baz says, once Barry breaks out the header story, we may as well pencil in a wedding. What woman could say no to that feat of athleticism? And Megan says, is this not the perfect rom-com premise? A chaste daytime visit will be planned. Hijinks will ensue. Max will misread the the sock on the door handle, and an insurance claim will have to be defended. The full pod team to do a guard of honour at the wedding. Ellis James sends a voice note. So there we are. But no more news on that front, Barry.
No.
Okay, noted. And that'll do for today. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Seb.
Thank you.
Enjoy the game tomorrow. Cheers, Lars.
Thank you, Max.
Thank you so much, Barry.
Thank you, Max.
Football Weekly is produced by Rory Simon and Matt Bentley-Viney. Our executive producer is Joel Grove. We'll be back tomorrow.